Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 2024's Maxine, which was directed by Ty West. I'm your co-host Alec, and filling in for Eric today is the one, the only Joe Testa. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Always good to be back.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because, we recorded a lot of those October ones, going back to June for some of them. And we haven't recorded an episode in a while, right? It's been like a couple months.
Yeah, we were getting ready for spooky season, I feel like in the spring.
I know, yeah, we're like Walgreens. We're getting ready real early. But yeah, we haven't actually recorded an episode throughout all of October, I don't think. And now we are here in November, and yeah, so I haven't talked to you in a while. Like, how was your spooky season? I know you're in Connecticut, but what were you up to?
Yeah, it was pretty great. Went home to visit the family and saw some nice foliage which I've been missing. And yeah, went trick-or-treating with my nephews and just binged some films as per usual. And yeah, it was really nice. Caught some beautiful weather. How was Halloween for you?
Well, a couple things I'll tell you. What did you dress up as?
Oh, I did. Me, my nephews, and my sister and brother-in-law kind of had a slasher movie theme. So I was Ghostface. My nephews were Jason and Michael Myers. My sister was Bride of Chucky. My brother-in-law was Chucky, and my mom was Elvira.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
when everybody does a collective costume. And then what did you watch? Any like standout films that you watched this year, or anything that you're like, I'm so glad I watched that this year.
Oh man, if we go through the whole month, I mean that could be its own episode. But when I was home, I rewatched Maxine because I knew this episode was coming up. I watched a bunch of movies with my mom. She didn't give Maxine a very good review, so she's probably listening to this episode right now in protest. But we watched that, and then we watched the entire new Halloween trilogy.
Oh,
Which was a lot of fun to revisit, and my mom really enjoyed those.
nice. Okay, actually cool, because I do want to talk about that trilogy in comparison to Maxine, the trilogy. So that'll definitely come up later. But yeah, no, my spooky season was good. I went to the Universal Horror Nights, which was really fun. I've never done that, so highly recommend it. There's so much effort put into that, so that was incredible. And one of my friends, Corinne, she's been on the podcast a bunch. She was Megan at the Universal Horror Nights, so I got to take some pictures with her. It was fun. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I can't believe I watched so many horror movies this month that I had never seen, and a lot of them I want to cover on here. Oddity was one that definitely stood out to me. Shudder killed it this year. I think Shudder did a really good job.
I watched Oddity on your recommendation.
I liked it for what it was. I thought it was interesting. I'd like to cover it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a great year for horror, and I do want to do a 2024 wrap-up year, episode at the end of the year too.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Good year for it. But anyways, all right, so let's jump into Maxine a little bit. I mean, I freaking loved this movie. I loved the way this wrapped up the trilogy. There might be another one. But yeah, dude, I mean, you were saying this might have been your number one or Strange Darling above this.
Yeah, it was kind of like a toss-up between those. I feel like I'm kind of leaning towards Strange Darling. That one really blew me away. But yeah, I really love this. I caught it in theaters when it came out. Yeah, I thought it was great. Can I ask you how you feel about the other two movies in this trilogy?
Yeah, I know, because I was thinking I don't think you were on when we covered X or Pearl.
No.
I really enjoyed X. I didn't think it was like this unbelievable masterpiece, but I was like, this is really cool. I really appreciated it for what it was. And then I thought it was so cool, just like a cinema from like a cinema standpoint, how cool it was that they shot Pearl like right after they did X, and they just used the same set, and we got to see that from a different point of view. I didn't like Pearl as much as X, but I still really liked it. I thought it was really cool. And this might be my favorite. It's like me. Maybe if I see X again, it'll change my opinion, but I don't know, man. I feel like this had it all for me, at least. How about you?
So I saw X. I saw it streaming, and you know what? It didn't do a whole lot for me. I really want to go back. and watch it again.
Yeah.
And it's not that I disliked it. I just didn't love it. And I certainly didn't rush out to see Pearl right away because I didn't love X.
Right.
And then a friend of mine really recommended Pearl. And did you hear Martin Scorsese say something really positive about it? There was a quote floating around from Martin Scorsese. So based
Really?
on,
Yeah.
my friend's recommendation and Marty's, I'm like, you know what? Let me watch Pearl. I really loved Pearl.
Yeah.
And, that might be the toss up for me is Maxine or Pearl. And I think I lean a little towards Pearl. But you know what? I really like them both. I really want to go back and watch X. It wasn't all I hoped it would be, but all in all, a really solid trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, this is a pretty big claim, but I can't really think of another horror trilogy that I like more than this. I mean, the only other ones that really come to mind is the Halloween one that you mentioned. Also, I guess the Thorn trilogy. I guess if you want to say the Dream Warriors trilogy or the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, sure. But I mean, what else is Basket Case? I mean,
Well, it's hard to say what even is a trilogy because there used to be lots of trilogies where there were just three movies and now they've added sequels and prequels to all of them. Like there used to be like the Living Dead trilogy for decades there was only three movies and now there's six movies, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean horror trilogies, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, because even the Halloween one, the new one's not really a trilogy because I guess technically the 78 one is part of it. So it's a quad, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, this as like a standalone trilogy, which there could be a fourth one, I guess. But I don't know. I can't think of anything else that had like a really interesting story where each of them was so drastically different in everything and like what it was trying to emulate, the way it was shot, the music. Basically, the way I think of it is like X is like a 70s sexploitation, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Grindhouse kind of, not spoof, but homage to that. Then you've got this like Technicolor musical kind of thing with Pearl, but it seems like it's really more of a character study on her. And then Maxine is this like detective LA noir, but mixed with a mystery murder case. It's like it's got like every aspect of horror, and it's all broken up so perfectly into three different parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know how I love to talk about the way movies look?
Yeah.
And I love the way all of these movies look. Just like you said, they kind of the way they're shot reflects the era, they're in, at least the movies of that time. And when I saw Maxine in theaters, and I haven't heard Ty West talk too much about this. I don't know much about the making of these movies, but when I
Okay.
saw Maxine on the big screen. And I love the way this movie looks again, but it almost reminded me of like, I wonder if they put some kind of VHS filter on it. Like it
Mm,
looked like there was a subtle hint of, not necessarily grain, but like the lines of a VHS tape. It's less noticeable when you watch it on TV, but I felt like there was, I don't know, that the way the 70s, X has that gritty grindhouse feel. And like you said, Pearl has that Technicolor musical. I wonder if they, in post, gave this that kind of VHS flavor.
I believe it did. Yeah. So I think when they had like the Betamax cameras, so, when like the cult, when they had the girls tied up, I believe that was legitimately an actual old camera.
Hmm.
But I do think they put a filter on it afterwards. Yeah. But it does look good. A lot of the neon lights on, whenever not Maxine is walking around the streets, I thought that looked pretty realistic to the time, at least.
Absolutely. And it doesn't look gimmicky,
No.
like because I see so many period movies that you don't really buy in to it looks like people playing dress up and just the way it's shot. I'm actually thinking of like the New Salem's Lot. I
Mm,
never buy into that being the 70s.
right.
But with all three of these movies, I totally buy into the time that they take place.
Yeah, the 80s specifically is getting so oversaturated with like nostalgia, like everything's taking place in the 80s that
Totally.
it's like almost a parody of itself, and this
Hmm.
didn't feel like that. You know, like a
No.
lot of that the Final Girls, I'm thinking about that did feel cheesy 80s, but this felt pretty realistic to a time I was not alive in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the story, I love this. Like you do 100% have to see X to see Maxine, but I don't necessarily think you need to watch Pearl. You definitely should. What do you think? Do you think you need to see Pearl to see this to appreciate it?
I may have underestimated that when I showed it to my mom because she hadn't seen the other two movies. I do think it probably helps to see X.
Oh, like your mom didn't see either of the other two?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
dude, yeah, that's gonna,
In
yeah.
fairness, I did see this movie in theaters with my wife, and she hadn't seen the other movies either. But just on the strength of this trailer for this movie, which is a great trailer,
Yeah.
she wanted to see it, and she really enjoyed it.
Wow. Okay. I feel like it would, if you don't see X at least, like, damn. And
Yeah,
then like the old lady, like Pearl flashbacks and stuff. You're like, what's happening?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but the movie, yeah, basically starts off 6 years after X ends, and X ends with Maxine getting in the car, killing Pearl, and driving away. And I think we hear her father giving that sermon in the background of the TV or something like that, and it ends. And then this picks up with her walking into an audition on a back lot, and she's trying to break out of the porn industry. So I guess we're supposed to assume that in those 6 years, she's just been kind of playing the porn circuit in, various places, right?
Yeah, that's how I took it. And I thought it was kind of interesting that they're holding their casting sessions in the studio, in on the lot, like in the big, studio area. That I just thought it's an interesting choice. I can't imagine that ever happens.
No. I mean, I can't remember if it said open casting either. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
there's no way that they would just let all these people onto a movie set or, yeah, in a studio backlot and be like, okay, yeah, oh, yeah, you don't have an agent, you're not in SAG. That's fine. Just come on in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but who knows, whatever. Because, yeah, this is supposed to be casting of like, I don't know. It would be like Friday the 13th Part 2, I guess. It's called Puritan is the film that they're casting for. And this is supposed to be the sequel, but it's not a video nasty anymore. This is going to be one that's in theaters. I think that's it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And could I just say, I just love all the setup here because I think right after this audition scene, we get the opening credits and it sets the stage so perfectly for like this time. Like you have the Night Stalker serial killer. And I think all that footage is like real news footage.
Mm.
And you get like the whole satanic panic thing going on with heavy metal. And you see Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. He's testifying in front of like Congress. Like, I was young for all this, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And it just kind of brings back memories of things I've talked about on the show. Like I remember when horror was dangerous. I remember when it was very controversial. And I'm not saying like I want to go back to those times. It's just like, oh yeah, like I remember hearing stories about people protesting like Silent Night, Deadly Night. And you see people protesting, the Puritan in this movie. And
Right.
it's just like it really does a great job of bringing us back to a time that, it doesn't really exist anymore. Like I think you could buy Terrifier action figures in Target now. We're in such a different time.
It's so true. The last thing I can remember, like really causing a stir, was like the first Eminem CD. Like that's the
Mm,
last thing I can remember, like vividly being on the news, being like, "Don't buy this for your kids," like sort of thing. And but after that, and that was like 2000, so it
right.
is. Yeah, people don't protest anything. Like I guess on the internet, but not. They're not going to theaters and being like
Yeah.
Satan, all this. Yeah, totally agree. The intro is amazing. It's edited also by Ty West, the whole film,
Mm.
all of them. So it's like the guy wrote, directed, and produced and edited the films. Does a great job with that.
Can I ask, are you like a Ty West fan? Like, what's your relationship with him?
So the first time I ever saw anything he did was The House of the Devil. Have you seen that?
I have, and besides the movies in this trilogy, I think the only movie of his I have seen.
He did a segment in the first VHS film.
Oh, yes, we talked about that. That's right.
Yeah, so that might be the extent of it for me too. I don't think I've seen anything else.
I'm a pretty big fan of House of the Devil. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's another movie. Like it's a throwback to the early 80s, and it doesn't feel gimmicky. It literally feels like a movie that, maybe someone forgot in a vault for, 30 years.
The way it's shot is so perfect. It really resonates with that. Yeah, like late 70s, early 80s, like indie horror film. Just like the zoom ins, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
The music's perfect. I think I might have told you this before, but that was filmed in Torrington, Connecticut, actually.
Ah, that
So,
rings a bell.
little Connecticut pride. Yeah, but dude, I mean, also the intro, it's ZZ Top, but dude, this soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved every song. I thought it fit the mood perfectly. That Obsession by Animotion, I love that song. I thought the Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I noticed earlier in the film they had a Frankie Goes to Hollywood poster on
Mhm.
like the back of a fence or whatever, and then later on they have the Welcome to the Pleasure Dome song. I was like, this is amazing. So.
Yeah.
Love the music.
Totally. And yeah, like you said, the 80s and even the 90s now is getting so like just we're getting bombarded with all this nostalgia in pop culture. And when I watch this movie, like I was never kind of rolling my eyes thinking, oh, this what an obvious choice or any of that. No, I totally bought into this world.
Yeah, no, dude.
Kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good comparison. It never felt gimmicky to the time. It just felt like authentic to it. And yeah, again, for a time I was not alive for, but yeah, no, so the intro's great. It shows Maxine doing her audition. She nails it. We get to meet the director who's like pretty into this film. She doesn't seem like the kind of director that would be making this kind of movie, especially in that time period. So she's like this, I don't know, young British woman, but she's very uptight and very just like, militant about how she wants everything done, treating this like a very auteur film, basically. But yeah, so the Maxine, we find out she is a stripper still. She's doing those peep shows on Sunset Boulevard, I think. And yeah, so we learn that her friend is going to a party in the Hollywood Hills that night. And she invites Maxine, but she's got to work, so she can't. And we also meet her agent, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad, and he's in everything now. And I liked his character. I thought he was pretty goofy, but he was kind of fun.
Yeah, totally. I think this movie is, such a fun send up of, show business, obviously. And it's something it kind of reminded me of, but actually it does so much better is Scream 3.
Mm,
Just kind of
yeah.
a Hollywood movie that, we spent a lot of time on the set and meeting all these colorful characters. But I think this movie, sends up Hollywood so much better than that movie did.
Oh, absolutely. And like being on the back lot felt so much more authentic. And
Mhm.
the scene where she's running from Kevin Bacon, like she's not going to get saved. It could be a movie. It could be they're shooting something like, it felt like she was alone on that set.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely felt better than like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back or
Yeah,
Scream 3 or something.
totally.
So, okay, so we got Maxine, and she just had her audition. Oh yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. And then she gets a tape, right? But I mean,
Mhm.
so much happens in this movie, so I'm sure I'm glossing over things, but the first tidbit that we get is is it the tape or is it the yearbook clipping? I think it's the tape.
Yeah, I think it's the tape.
Right. And the tape is from X. It's her porn scene and she's watching it. And I don't know why she's so freaked out about that. Like, wouldn't that be a thing people could get? Like, it's porn that she was in.
I guess, but I would imagine I mean, she's associated with the murders that happened there. I don't know. It's been so long since I watched X. I would imagine nothing ever came of that movie, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
So the fact that someone has footage from what was shot there, that's not good for her because she killed the killers and left town and didn't call the
Right.
cops or anything, right?
Right. Nobody's gonna find that footage and be like, well, we should still make a porno out of this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So okay. So yeah, they do have her scene. So that is pretty scary. She also has a friend that works. I believe she lives above a video store or something. And
Mhm.
yeah, the guy downstairs is her friend, and he's kind of like her platonic boyfriend, I guess. I don't really know.
Well, he's gay.
Oh,
And
is that supposed to be
yeah,
it?
because he
Oh,
drops a line like I'm the only guy not trying to fuck you or something like that. So
right.
she just I think, she has a friendship with him and she feels safe with him.
That makes way more sense. Okay, yeah, because I thought he was saying that like, yeah, I'm just here, like I want to, but I just don't try. Like I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's just not the reading I got off of it.
No, you're right. I think you're right.
But I will say, I mean, I'm such a sucker for stuff like this. Like all the scenes in the video store and them talking about like what stars got their start in horror movies. Like I just love all this.
I was like, they're gonna say Kevin Bacon, right? And they didn't. I was kind of surprised.
Oh, that would have been a funny little, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
All right, let's talk about Kevin Bacon for a second because I thought his character was incredible in this dude. Like, what a scumbag, but like I really believed it. He looked terrible and his accent was so like slimy and stuff. What did you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's playing it to the hilt. Yeah, I mean, he's hamming it up big time. But yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
He's great. He's just one of those guys that, I mean, he's been around forever now, and I almost feel like he's maybe a little underappreciated. He's been doing good work for decades now, and yeah, it's so much fun to see him here.
I thought he was really funny and he kind of in this weird way reminded me of Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. I think it's just because it was in LA, the way he was driving, smoking, and then when he had the bandages on his face.
Oh yeah, and I don't think that's an accident either.
Okay. You're right. Okay. Yeah. So his character was great, and he's the private investigator who's tracking Maxine and working with the person that's ultimately looking for her. Which we're gonna spoil it, obviously, but I'm so dumb. I'm like, who's it gonna be? Like the whole like up until like almost the last second, I was like, I don't know who it is, and it's like so obvious it's the dad. Like, who else would it be? There's no one else. It would just be so lame if it was just like it was a cop that, was at the house. Like that would suck. Like for her to be a dad, it's like, of course it's the dad.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, they almost spoil it in the beginning with that little, home video clip. And, that I just, for whatever reason, didn't think of that during the movie. And yeah, it is pretty obvious.
Dude, the second time I watched it, I was like, yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. The very first shot of the movie is, yeah, a clip of Maxine being spoken at by her father saying the line, I won't live the life I don't deserve, or something like that. Anyway, so Kevin Bacon and Maxine's dad are tracking her down, and he's the leader of this, I guess, like Pentecostal church or something like that in Louisiana. I think Louisiana. And yeah, so Maxine's friends get captured because she's talking to the other girl about like, oh yeah, I'm going to a party in the hills tonight. A different girl is going to another party in the hills, and Maxine also has to get up early because she got the part. She's in Puritan too, so so she's not going to the party, but this girl is, and then we see the footage of both those girls getting. I don't know if we see them getting killed yet, but they get tied up with the old Beta camera or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for them.
Yeah, so we do find them on a golf course, and that's where we meet the two investigators who I liked them. I did think Bobby Cannavale was kind of annoying, but maybe that's the point. Like he's just this like, over the top actor kind of wannabe guy. But yeah, what'd you think of the cops?
Yeah, they were fine. I was trying to like place how I knew them. There's so many familiar faces in this movie. But yeah, they didn't leave a really strong impression, but I thought they were fine. Also, around this time in the movie, we're kind of introduced to this mysterious figure in black gloves, and I do believe Ty West was very influenced by like Italian slasher movies, giallo movies.
Oh yeah,
and I actually this movie inspired me to dive into some of those because it's kind of a blank spot for me. But yeah, we are introduced to I guess that's our main protagonist or antagonist, but at this point he's just kind of shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, and that's the dad, right? Like he went to the peep show and watched Maxine just to like confirm it's her. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so he like breaks a board as he's watching her, and that so she can't see him, he can see her, and yeah, it's one of those places. Oh, and then this scene, this is like 10 minutes into the movie. It's right after this peep show scene, and you're like, "Ooh, okay, we're not fucking around here." When that guy like sneaks up on her in the alleyway.
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like he's a Buster Keaton impersonator on Hollywood Boulevard, and that moment. It's just one of those moments where I was reminded how great it is to see movies like this in a theater because I saw it in a pretty packed house. And when she steps on his nuts, like the whole theater, there was just a collective, scream or gasp. And yeah, just great.
Oh, I mean, you don't see it coming. Yeah, she just like has him lay down on the ground. She has a gun, because he approaches her with a knife and then she just crushes his balls. And yeah, it's brutal. But the thing is, I mean, it shows that Maxine is not somebody to be fucked with. I mean, we already knew that. It's like, okay, so she didn't really change. And also like she's still a cocaine addict. So she's
Mhm.
still violent, she's still a cocaine addict. She's basically the same person, which is nice. And it would have been weird if she was like Sarah Connor in T2. You're like, whoa, a lot happened, like a lot. So it's nice to see that she's relatively the same in those 6 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene, woo, okay. And it's very early in the movie, so you're just like, okay, buckle up. But I think that's the peak for the gratuitous gore. So then what happens next? We find out that her friends are dead. They find them on the golf course. The cops are investigating it. Maxine's kind of starting to get involved in her role. She's building a relationship with the director,
hmm
but she gets a note.
I was just going to say a fun little moment is when she's having a life cast made of her for the
Right.
movie, and she starts having these kind of flashbacks to X. But yeah, seeing the life cast being made, and you see all the special effects, around her. It's just
Mm.
like if you love movies, if you love like the making of movies, that's really just something I love about this movie. It's just kind of a love letter to movies and Hollywood and horror movies especially.
Oh yeah. That scene too, where they're making the life mask. I mean, first of all, you're making that, you don't leave her alone.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I'll be right back, and then just walks away. And also, like, I don't know, I've never seen them actually. You definitely probably have way more knowledge about this, but like, how the hell could she breathe through that? She's telling her to breathe, and I'm like, can you?
Yeah, I think they usually put like straws in your nose for that,
Right.
but she didn't have any. Like, yeah, I I've seen this done, before, not in person, but just, if you watch a lot of behind the scenes movies, horror movies especially, and I don't think I could ever do this. Like, I'm way too claustrophobic. So this scene was making me nervous.
Oh, do you see? I'm the exact opposite. I would love to be like Freddy Krueger. Like I would die. The only thing I wouldn't love is contacts, but everything else,
Mm.
I'm down, dude. But yeah, so that scene was intense and just shows that she's definitely on edge and the past is still following her. And then we get another scene where a letter's left for her with her high school yearbook picture. So it's like, okay, this person knows a lot about her. And even that's so obvious that it's her dad. Who the fuck else would have that? It's
Yeah.
like her dad is her yearbook. So
hmm
and then, we do get to finally meet Kevin Bacon for the first time. They have this meeting, and Kevin Bacon does say something that I thought was pretty interesting from a villain standpoint. It's just like, this isn't about money. He's like, she's like, it's always about money. He's like, for whores like you and me. He's like, but my, associate is the flair for dramatics and like doesn't care about anything but getting revenge on you, basically. So I did like that, from it. Because usually villains they are motivated by evil, but like, they're gonna get some money out of it usually.
Yeah.
But usually, I don't, not Michael Myers or anything, but you know. So okay, so we meet that scene. Maxine's basically just like, she's being tracked now. She knows why she's being tracked. She doesn't know by who, but she gets invited to this party in the hills, and she's starting to connect the dots. And then, yeah, as I was saying earlier, like her and the director start to build this kind of interesting relationship. Director tells her straight out that the production company didn't want her for the film, and you're like, that's good. That's probably gonna boost her confidence right from the top. But dude, like a lot of their dialogue I really liked. Like I like the scene where they're in front of the psycho house and she's saying like, you're in the belly of the beast. Most people don't, make it this far. If you take your eye off the prize for 1 second, it'll spit you out. And it's just like, damn, like there's gravity to that and that reality of that. And if you're not valuable to the system doesn't want you. And I really liked that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Really well written. And yeah, this is a big opportunity for this director. She
Right.
seems like, a horror movie would probably be really beneath her. She's probably like really overqualified. But,
Hmm.
I mean, she's a woman, in Hollywood in the early 80s or mid 80s. And, most horror movies at that time were obviously being made by men, except maybe Slumber Party Massacre.
No, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, so she's their relationship is interesting. She sees something in Maxine, and Maxine does exude this confidence, especially right at the top, where she says, like, you better cast me in this because everyone's gonna know my name.
And it's great to get to be on the set of Psycho. I was just there. I just did the Universal tour
Mm.
earlier this year. And when I think back at Pearl, like that almost feels like kind of a contemporary love letter to Psycho, you know?
I mean, I guess the mother relationship or just the being alone in exile.
Yeah, and keeping the bodies there.
Yeah, and the lake, she
Mhm.
pushes the car into the lake. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that's cool to have the Psycho House in there again. I'm so happy they didn't do like a scene. I thought Kevin Bacon was gonna fall down the stairs and they were gonna do that shot. And I was like, no, no,
Mhm.
no, don't do that. But they didn't. So I was like, thank God. Yeah, and then towards the end, Maxine goes to this house because all of her friends are getting killed, and the cops are like, all right, like like all your friends are getting murdered. Like, what's going on? So she gets the help, Maxine gets the help of her agent, and they kill Kevin Bacon in a brutal way.
Oh, yes.
Like car machine crushes him.
Hmm.
Like, I didn't think that was gonna happen. I thought they were gonna scare him, but I'm like, nope, they killed him. So
Yep.
that was pretty intense. The ending got a little dicey for me. Once they get to the house and the father reveals himself, and it's like the whole Pentecostal people are there with guns and they're going to do a live exorcism on the thing. It got a little crazy. I still liked it, but what do you think of the ending?
Yeah, I think the movie had so much goodwill at that point that it might not have knocked it out of the park, but no matter what, like this movie won me over. So yeah,
Yeah, me too.
I can't say, the reveal of the father being, the killer was, it's not one of the all-time great reveals, but we get a pretty good action scene here. And I actually like a lot that just the climax being at the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Thematically, I think that's just very appropriate. But yeah, the whole shenanigans with the dad, don't love it.
Well, it's so funny you saying that like at the top of the Hollywood sign. I felt like it was so symbolic with Bobby Cannavale dying,
Mhm.
sitting there being like, I always wanted to be an actor. He's like, I never been up here after 30 years. It's like you never reached the top. And then his bloody hand is holding onto the sign and then it drops and we just
Yeah.
see and it was like it's very symbolic of like an actor that never made it.
I
Like,
mean, yeah, maybe it's only people like us that could appreciate something like that. But yeah, I thought that was great.
the other moment that I really could appreciate, I think because being peripherally in this industry is when they did the moment of silence on set.
Mm,
Like it was like, they have the moment of silence for the other actress that got killed, and they kind of are all just like looking around at each other, waiting for it to be over, basically, or like, okay, when is somebody gonna be like, okay, we're done, sort of thing. Like it didn't
right.
feel genuine,
Yeah, it just very performative.
right?
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think this movie I think is very just kind of cynical in the best possible way, and just yeah, it just sends up the industry really well.
yeah. Like you said, it's like a love letter to like
Mhm.
Hollywood, LA, the 80s, just so much. And yeah, so the way that it actually ends is she kills her dad, the
Mhm.
cops do shoot him. They have this little back and forth and they repeat the mantra that her father always said to her. She shoots her father with a shotgun. And then we have a moment which I don't know if it's real. I think it's real, but it's like she sees her future going on talk shows, talking about her story. They're doing the rights to her. She's on the red carpet. And then it cuts back to her again. Then she kills her dad. And then she's on the actual set of Puritan 2, dressed as the 50s housewife that she auditioned for in the first scene. And then it's just her head on a bed. And she's like, I never wanted to end. So what do you think? Is it real? What's going on?
I do think the part where she's like walking the red carpet and all that, I think that is fantasy.
Okay.
And that's just the way I prefer to take it. I thought that was a little too just kind of too happy of an ending for this movie. But then when we get all that, when she's back on the set of the movie, that I take as, yeah, that's what really happened. Who knows what's going to happen from there, but she is going to be the star of the Puritan too.
Right. And she's still doing cocaine, which I thought they should have had her stop doing that because it's like, wow, she really came full circle.
Right. Yeah.
But she's still doing coke, whatever. Cool. That's her character. But I do love it starts with a Betty Davis quote and then it
Mhm.
ends with the Kim Carnes song, The Betty Davis Eyes. So it's like a little full circle for that.
Yeah.
before we wrap up here, I just gotta say I think this is Mia Goth, just like she could do any part, and I'd believe it now. And Ty West, congratulations, very good trilogy in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to go back and watch X. I don't, maybe I didn't give it a fair shake, but I'm a huge fan of these last two movies for sure.
Now that it's a trilogy and you can kind of see it from beginning to end, it's a lot. I think there's so much more to appreciate now that it's finished.
Yeah.
But Joe, thank you for jumping on for this, and you'll definitely be on in the future, very near, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Well, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but there'll be an episode on Monday, and thank you for listening in, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.